What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into Celtics Post Game Live. I am your host, Rob Haytan. Joined with me are my two co-hosts, Franco and Justin Lowe. Guys, the Celtics they dropped a rough one on the road here tonight in Madison Square Garden, which is the second game of the preseason. They fought through three. The Knicks just kind of got away with it once the third string guys came in. We saw a lot of good, a lot of bad. We got a lot of things to talk about. We can talk about last night's game against the Sixers, which was a win at home. We can talk about tonight's game against the Knicks. Several talking points. However, let's touch base on the stats real quick. Let's go through. Someone who continues to impress, in my opinion, is Peyton Pritchard. Pritchard is tonight's player of the game. 21 points, 3 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, 7 of 15 shooting. He struggled a little bit in the first half, kind of got a groove going in that third quarter. 4 of 11 from beyond the arc. Justin, what did Peyton Pritchard show you tonight?
Peyton Pritchard showed me nothing but what he continues to show us, right? Like he's just pure confident. He's not he's not a shell, right? He's living up to this extension. I feel like once a player gets paid, especially a young player, kind of relax, right? Like they just, I got the bag. I don't really have to go out there and perform. No, this is preseason. This is Peyton Pritchard's perfect opportunity. He outlasted Kemba Walker, Marcus Smart, and Malcolm Brogdon. And he formally nearly requested a trade last season. And he's still around, and he got an extension. He has to be feeling good. He just looks comfortable out there. He looks ready to go. And I know it's only preseason. I know we're 1-1, but I really, really, really like what I see from Peyton Pritchard. He's just pure confidence, and I love that. And I think that needs to continue to happen, right? Like we saw I feel like with Aaron Nesmith, same draft classes. I feel like when Aaron Nesmith had a rough game, he got so discouraged, right? It got into his head too much. I think that affected the game. I don't think that happened with Pritchard, but I absolutely love what I've seen here from these last two games from Peyton Pritchard. I think he's got I want to say 47 points in 2 games, if my math is correct, Franco.
Yep. Want to know what I'm seeing from Peyton Pritchard is the spark plug effect that Isaiah Thomas had back when he was on the team. He's coming in, even when he started off as a 6-man Isaiah Thomas, when he got in, he made those minutes impactful, and when he gets those spark plug 3-pointers that he is going down the court, dribbling it, setting up the plays. The fact that he's being more of a playmaker than a spark plug during these games is a big sign as well. And it's going to be a huge help for him when he gets to regular season time and he's getting the minutes rotating in with Drew and Derek White.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't news to us. We know Pritchard can do this. I feel like we've seen him do it. We saw him do it in the last game last year against Atlanta, where he had a 30-point triple-double. That's kind of who he is. That's kind of why he wanted to leave Boston for that little stint, because he felt that he had a bigger role. He could have contributed in a bigger way. And I think that's why Brad kind of ultimately decided that, listen, Pritchard can give you a lot of those things that guy like a Malcolm Brogdon can give you. And you can get him for a lot cheaper. So I think that's why they went the direction of Peyton Pritchard. Right. Offensively, I really do think he has a role on this basketball team as the spark plug off the bench. Alongside Derek White, I think you're going to see a lot of Derek White playing an kind of off the ball 2 role this year because of what Peyton Pritchard's been doing with the ball. So I think good signs from Pritchard, but again, that's not surprising to us. I think Pritchard's kind of the last guy I was watching tonight and looking out for. A guy that impressed me was Delano Banton from Toronto, third-year guy, 6'7" guard. He came out of the gate like, I think it was 3 or 4 possessions where he just came off that screen. He hit him with a little in and out crossover right to the rim. He was getting almost every shot he wanted. He kind of was getting to his spots, attacking the rim. I thought he was pretty impressive, Justin. But someone here I want to talk about because he is a returning player, a 3-year guy, my guy, Sam Hauser. It was rough, a rough shooting night. Does this worry you, or is it kind of more of like, listen, it's preseason, it's a bad shooting night, stuff like that kind of happens?
No, because we've seen this from Hauser before. He goes through I feel like you see this out of a lot of shooters as well. They go through shooting slumps, and that's a legitimate thing. And I think we know what we can get out of Hauser. I think do think that we need to see a little bit more consistency. But I believe he was two of 9 tonight. He was 0 of 6 last night. Look, I think with Hauser is he's getting a lot of really good looks, and I think he's starting to produce a lot more, and he's able to give you a lot more than just shooting the three ball. I think it'd be a
Right.
little bit more concerning if he was just passing up the open looks and or taking bad looks, right? Like if he was hesitating, he's not hesitating. He's continuing to shoot the basketball. He's continuing to shoot with confidence. Tonight he did a lot more than just shoot the basketball, Rob. He had 8 rebounds tonight as well, which he was all over the glass, which is pretty big because the Celtics bigs tonight were not good at rebounding
No,
whatsoever.
not at all.
We'll get to that because that backup big man is really up in the air right now. But as far as Hauser goes, I just love the confidence from him as well. I hope that I think we still have what is it 3 preseason games left. I hope he continues to shoot with confidence, and you can't let that stuff affect you. And guess what, guys? It's preseason. If you're gonna shoot 2 of 9 and 0 of 6, let it be in the preseason.
Definitely. And what the beautiful thing was with the roster tonight is with Hauser going down in the shooting, we had Svi Mikhailu. I'm trying to pick up pronouncing his name, but he stepped up for Sam Hauser, and he was making those shots. He was being that 3-point threat, and it really shows the depth that this team needs. And Lamar, Brissett, they all produced, and we didn't have our 6 stars for tonight. So the fact that we saw the bench filling in and stepping up for each other is a huge sign and shows the versatility we brought in.
Yeah, I do think that there's a lot of depth this year, and I think there's a lot of we're seeing in these games. There's a lot of different. These players have different skill sets that you kind of pick and choose what you need from them. We saw Shvi was been our scorer. You saw Lamar Stevens kind of just be that hustle, grit and grind type of guy. He's a phenomenal defender. He's crashing the glass a couple times. He had a couple tough fadeaways, and then you got a guy who kind of is like a space and pace guy that can play defense like Brissett. So you kind of just have you can go a bunch of different ways with this team and this roster. 1 through 4. However, once you get to that 5 spot, you get a little messy. And obviously, I do want to talk about last night's game, but we're going to stay and we're going to finish this real quick and talking about the big man. Luke Cornett was virtually terrible tonight. He looked like he didn't belong out on the court. And this is a guy that has had some time with the Celtics roster in this organization and has been here and he's gone through Maine. He's played, he's gone 2 ways, right, Justin? But as you kind of look through these first 2 preseason games, last night wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. And then after that lob in the first couple possessions from Pritchard, the game it felt like every time Cornett was in, he was getting out hustled, just outplayed, just wasn't athletic. Like what is it? Is this the guy?
So I really like Cornett in the high pick and roll action, but my problem with Luke Cornett is this is a similar feel like I had towards Kelly Olynyk, and I know Olynyk brought a lot more offensively. But he just isn't physical enough. I feel like Luke Cornett just isn't physical enough. And for, what is it, 7'2", 300 pounds or 270, whatever it is, like I feel like he just needs to bring a more physical presence. I think, and we'll get to Keita in a minute, but I just feel like Keita was much more physical and he was able to really put his fingerprint on the game. Luke Cornett had trouble grabbing rebounds. He had trouble fighting for loose balls against guards. He was tapping the ball. He could never get a grip on the ball. Just want to see more aggressive out of Luke Cornett, man. Like put some bodies on the rebounders, box out. I really like Luke Cornett as a teammate. I think he's one of the funniest dudes in the NBA. I really do. But, when you're trying to go compete for a championship, all that goes away on the court and you have to be in serious mode. And I just don't know if Luke Cornett is that guy you throw in. I think if anything, throw him on a 2-way deal and bring in Keita because I don't know, man. 2 games from Luke Cornett. He looked okay last night. Tonight, he started okay. And then as the game went on, you can just see that he was just getting outplayed, like you said, Rob. I think he only finished with 19 minutes, which was the least amount of time for the starters. I don't think he played at all in the fourth quarter, Franco.
Yeah, and what I brought up in the first half in the group chat with us was the fact that Cornette was getting those key moments and key minutes in this game. I know it's just a preseason, but that shows that that's kind of all we have, and that's what we're banking on behind Kristaps and Al. And we knew that losing Rob was going to be a big hit on the defensive side, but the fact that Mitchell Robinson was just bullying Cornette tonight, I think it was 4 straight points in the paint during the first quarter on Cornette when they were just driving on him like he was just a flagpole in the middle of the paint. It shows that we need to bring in more, and like we said, Keita was a good sign. He's a big physical guy, a little bit stockier than Cornette is, and obviously a little bit more athletic and getting down the court and bodying up in the post. But we definitely need to assess the center position.
Yeah, I think that your playoff rotation is fine. It's set. You don't really need to tweak your playoff rotation. You have your 7-8 guys. Al and I think Porzingis can rotate who plays the 5. They can start out together, and then one comes out, and then it's just like we saw with Rob and Al. It worked, right? I do think there's a real 82 game regular season problem right now that you're going to potentially see at that big man slot. Cornette defensively and rebounding, which is what we need for our backup center. We have scoring, we have shooting, and we have defending in that starting lineup. You need rebounding and blocking shots. A rim presence is not what Cornette can give you. Like Justin said, he's a phenomenal high pick and roll player. He can really hide behind the defense well off that screen, and he's a little bit of a lob threat. But I mean, he is not showing us what we wanted to see through 2 games in the rebounding and defense aspects. And this isn't a season that you can just kind of sit and wait around until the deadline. I don't think that's a viable option anymore. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Brad Stevens does, because it's kind of like, all right, well, what, you're going to go into the season with Cornette as your backup big? Where does that leave you? Are you going to bring a guy in? Personally, I'm making a phone call to someone like Dwight Howard. I think Dwight would be the perfect bench big man for this team, rebounding, defense, and is a rim presence. On offense, he can be a lob threat, and that's really what has been the success in the NBA at that big man position and playing backup. You've seen guys like JaVale McGee and have great success on championship rosters because they defend, rebound, and are a rim presence offensively. So I do think that's a big talking point, and that's a big something that we will keep harping on until we see improvement in that area. But I do think there is a lot of good things. There has been a lot. I think the good has far outweighed the bad through these first 2 games. Obviously, we didn't cover the first game because me, Justin, Ian, we all were in attendance for that. Justin, can we just talk about something real quick? That was not a preseason basketball game. The Garden was...
That was louder than the friggin' Hawks series, bro.
I had to turn down my TV.
The Garden was bump. I remember I was like... So it was like wild.
You know what's ridiculous? JJ Redick said that they were pumping noise into the Garden, which I was there. They were not pumping any noise into the Garden.
Not at all.
I went with family, and I even said to my family, like, this is packed for a preseason game. Like, this is absolutely packed for a preseason game, and the crowd was on their feet. I mean, like, I get it, it's preseason, and I get Embiid didn't play, but like Celtics Philly, man, like that's preseason or not, like that's a fun matchup. Like, especially when that last series just a couple of months ago.
And you know how the Garden's really bumping in the preseason is when you got lines by concessions at halftime. I remember it was halftime, and I was looking around. I was like, "Oh my!" The bathroom lines. This is preseason. This is preseason. I think that shows you kind of where the buzz is right now with this basketball team, especially the current status with the Patriots, with the Red Sox. Right, it's been a real letdown through the summer and into the start of this fall as the Pats are 1-4 and the Red Sox drop the ball big time. And then you don't really know what you're getting with the Bruins. And then here come the Celtics, who make these huge, big moves for guys like Porzingis and Holiday, and the city's buzzing about them. And I think something that was a good sign for me was, did you see Porzingis, man? I mean, he had a smile on his face the entire game. And they asked him in the post-game press conference, like,
lost words.
Yeah, he was like, I just can't express how much I am happy to be here. I love being here. And I think that's a positive sign because when you give up a guy like Marcus Smart and you give up a guy
Right.
like Robert Williams and you let Grant Williams go, and so these core key foundational pieces to this team that's so deep rooted in the city that loves them, you want guys that love that. And you could see, I mean, you saw it on the bench tonight. Holiday smiling, Porzingis is smiling. It's slowly but surely
Right.
the vibes are getting there to where this team is going to start really, really rolling together, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think like, I mean, Porzingis has been in the league what 8 years, so I mean, he's been in the league almost a decade, and he says he's never experienced a preseason crowd like he did last night.
Right.
And I don't know, man. I know it was only one game, but it's just like when you see one of your star players who's new and you kind of gave up a lot for him and you're kind of really banking on him, right? Like you're like, oh man, like we gave up all that, we better pray it works. Just to see how happy he is and how comfortable he is already works so well. I think what excited me was two probably 13 seconds into the game when he hit a spot up corner three to start the game off. I mean, and then he had the ankle breaker on the baseline, and then the slam, and then the little hesitation crossover dribble move pull up in the mid range game. Guys, Celtics haven't had that. Celtics haven't had that mid post work. Celtics haven't had that 3-point game work. I get it. We lost a lot of defense at Raw, but we gained a lot of offensive talent as well in Kristaps Porzingis. We saw him block that huge shot with Al Horford. We saw a little bit of Drew Holiday. I know he had a struggling night shooting the ball, but we know what we can get out of Drew Holiday. But fun atmosphere in the TD Garden. I was very, very glad, and I was very impressed with the crowd as well.
Yeah, this season's got a lot of anticipation behind it. I mean,
Right.
You really have nothing else to look forward to as a New England fan.
The Boston Celtics.
I don't know who you're gonna look forward to other than the Celtics to bring a parade to Boston in the next 5 years. But it's really, this is the city and this is the team to do it. We've been, hate to use it for a lack of a better word, we've been blue balled for the past 4 years with this team, reaching the championships, Eastern
Right.
Conference, the NBA. I feel like this is really the year that this team is banking on it, and Wick Grossbeck has been very vocal about not hesitating to make a move to make sure this team gets a championship. If it means he has to have a couple more pennies come out of his pocket, he will do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that something I took note of last night was just like the talent that Porzingis and Drew Holiday have. And I don't think personally, I had never really watched a lot of Kristaps Porzingis. I watched the game where he lit us up for 40 last year. I saw,
watch that game.
yeah, right. I mean,
and
I've
then
seen
we
a lot
smoked
of
Milwaukee by 40.
yeah, I've seen a lot of Drew Holiday. A lot. I mean, the battles we've had, I knew what we were getting with
We've
Drew.
also been forced to watch it.
But Porzingis, I didn't quite know what we were getting. Statistically, I knew what we were getting. I knew we were getting a good score, a good rebounder, a good shot blocker. But his offensive talent is just truly like levels ahead of where Robert Williams was. I mean, truly. And his ability to space and to be a spacer, but to also get a bucket when we needed a bucket. We saw him off that pick and roll, how deadly him and Tatum in that pick and roll are going to be, just absolutely virtually unstoppable, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we saw just Porzingis just really fit the mold of third, in my opinion, the third scoring option on this basketball team. And he was doing it in the flow of the offense, and it was really impressive for only the first game being together that it was there. You could see the first play of the game, the catch and shoot three spacing, and then he went into the pick and roll and he caught that alley oop, and then they got him back in the pick and roll and he caught it baseline and he ripped a jab step through into the dunk. It was just like, oh my God, this guy. It plays so fluent, and there's a fluidity to his game that's just like Robert Williams. I loved Robert Williams, and I think you lost a little bit of rim protecting, a little bit of rim. I think Robert Williams a little step up ahead of him. But I will say, offensively, you're getting a whole nother beast with Kristaps Porzingis, and I remember I was watching that man, and I was there with my brother, and we were just looking at each other, and we were like, "Oh my God, we are lucky enough to watch this man play basketball on our basketball team for 82 games and then some." And I just can't express how excited I am for this. But with that being said, quick show here, guys. It is preseason. Honestly, we need a preseason ourselves, right? Because we got to get back in the flow of it. The regular season's coming up. We are going to be having you guys covered through the 100% the road games. Home. I'm not done yet. I was about to ask any last things, but yeah. So we'll have you guys covered. Okay. We'll have you guys covered for road games and whatnot, guys. Before we close out the show, Justin, you got something to say, Franco?
Yeah. What do you do Wednesday? Now, I think the Celtics have a 5-day break after Wednesday. They don't play again till Tuesday. Do you play the starters? Do you go starters against Philly in Philly Wednesday? If you're Missoula, how do you handle minutes here this Wednesday game? You just,
you ramp them up. I think each game comes, you ramp them up slowly because listen, like at the end of the day, obviously you want to be mindful and careful with a guy like Al, where this doesn't really matter and Tate, right? It's preseason, but you also do want to get them warmed up and ready to go, and especially with this new team, where it's not like it's like last year's team where the chemistry's there and everyone knows each other's spots, right? It's like, no, you got to use these games.
Have been practicing for like 1 week together.
Exactly. You got to use these games to really get into the groove, learn each other's spots, learn each other's tendencies, learn like everything. You really got to soak it all in.
Yeah, minimal minutes, I think, with the stars is key. Like, just limit them as much as you can, but you still want them to work in with those crews, and you really want to mix and match and kind of trial and error with the lineups. You can mix and match the amount of forwards and the amount of versatility we have. We want to see different packages together. We want to see a tall lineup. We want to see a 3-point lineup. This is a good time for Joe Mazzulla to continue to experiment and grow. And this is the time that he should go for those ballsy moves and make those mistakes that could help him develop something that will help us in the regular season.
Also, shout out Drew Carter, first career.
Oh yeah,
Celtics game. Very, very, very impressed.
Silky voice.
I think he's I'm excited to welcome him into my living room for 40 plus years because he's a young guy. I think especially what we're trying to do here, I think it's just so important. He's 25 years old, and I think it's just so amazing. Youth in sports.
How old is he?
Media.
25.
He's 25.
He's 25 years old.
Got like 4 years on us.
A terrific sports broadcaster. He also works on ESPN. I've had conversations with him, and nice. He's a cool guy. But it's just really cool seeing somebody our age kind of take the reins. And Mike Gorman, this is his last season. He does have pretty big shoes to fill, but tonight was history for the Boston Celtics in some way or another. So that's definitely cool. But on to Wednesday, on to Philly.
Absolutely. Back to Philly. Guys, thank you so much for joining us in. First post game back. Feels great. We'll have all the guys. We'll have the whole crew absolutely for the opening game. Don't worry about that in New York. Right back at MSG. For throughout the course of the preseason, you're going to be kind of seeing this. Again, you're going to be seeing different types of squads, different type of rotations. But guys, thank you thank you guys so much for joining us in. And until next time.